Well, according to the clock, it is now 6 o'clock, and so I would need a motion that we return to open session and come out of closed session, please.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll start the voting. Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Yes. And now we need to certify that the items that we discussed, sections A5 and A8 were the only things that we talked about in closed session. And the resolution reads, where the Carroll County Board of Supervisors convened a closed session this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and on the motion to close the meeting in accordance with the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3711D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Board of Supervisors that such closed session was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Therefore, be it resolved that the Carroll County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, number one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session to which the certification applies, and two, only such business matters as were identified in the motion by which this closed session was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting to which the certification applies. So I'll ask you to so certify if you agree. And I'll start with Mr. Moore,
I so certify.
Mr. Philip McCraw,
I say certify.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
I so certify.
Mr. Webb,
I so certify.
Mr. Hill,
I so certify.
and I so certify. Next, I'm going to ask Robbie if he would lead us in an invocation and our pledge.
Let's all rise. Heavenly Father, we take this opportunity to thank you for this day that you provided for us. And Lord, just ask you that you continue to watch over us and protect us and guide us as we go along our ways, Lord. We ask that you be with us during this meeting and help us conduct it in peace and harmony. Lord, we ask you to be with those that are sick, shut in, and those that are struggling from losses of their loved ones. Lord, we just ask you to be with our country and help us to bring more light to you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a new sound system. Can everybody hear okay? Well, it's good to have such a good crowd tonight. I'm going to add one item to the agenda under old business. It'd be letter C. It's a resolution to abandon a portion of Old Virginia State Route 725, and I think all of you have seen that. It's passed out earlier. With that, I'm going to open the public hearing about our cigarette tax board at 6:04. And this public hearing is to talk about a proposed ordinance to establish a joint entity to be known as the Mount Rogers Cigarette Tax Board. Do you want to speak to this first before we get it public comment?
I'd be happy to, Dr.
Okay.
Littrell. Gentlemen, what you have before you is a proposed ordinance, as Dr. Littrell said, that would establish a joint cigarette tax board with other entities, with other localities within the Mount Rogers area. Tonight, you would be voting on just the organization of the tax board, which would be responsible for administering any cigarette tax that this board or other localities within the Mount Rogers area who join the board would impose. It does not commit you to a specific cigarette tax or, frankly, a cigarette tax at all. It would just be approving the formation of the board. But whether and how much to impose on any cigarette tax would be a matter for adoption by separate ordinance after advertisement and public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Durbin. Do we have a list of those who've signed up?
I don't have anyone signed up, but I did receive an email, if you don't mind.
Okay,
This came from Deborah Nestor in Laurel Fork. In theory, the formation of a joint entity to be known as the Mount Rogers Cigarette Tax Board will be for the purpose of beginning a cigarette tax on the citizens of Carroll County. Therefore, I am commenting on why Carroll County should not implement a cigarette tax. Currently, federal cigarette taxes are $1.01 per pack, and Virginia cigarette tax is 30 cents per pack. On that $1.31, purchasers must pay an additional 7 cents in Virginia sales tax, which the county receives 1%. Every time the cigarette tax increases, the amount of sales tax increases. The average cost of cigarettes, including cigarette tax, is $6, so the consumer is paying 32 cents sales tax. This is double taxation on one product. Comparatively, gasoline and diesel have fuel tax included in the price, but the consumer does not have to pay additional sales tax on the product when purchased. To clarify, I am not a smoker. I'm a part owner of a retail store. The grouping together of counties in the Mount Rogers area is a good idea if all the counties implement a cigarette tax. The purpose would be to keep the rates even in the localities. However, Nestor's store and Dollar General are the only retailers east of Hillsville that sell cigarettes. The next closest retailer is 7 miles away in Patrick County. If Patrick County does not implement a cigarette tax, our store will have to charge more for the products and will lose customers. This is similar to the extra fuel tax that Carroll County had to pay for a while because they are considered part of the I-81 corridor and Patrick County is not. The document that I was sent on request did not mention the intended use for funds generated by a cigarette tax in Carroll County. My hope is that you will use due diligence in considering if an extra revenue is worth putting this unfair taxation on the portion of our citizens.
thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that intended to speak on this during our public hearing discussion? Seeing no one coming forward, I will close the public hearing at 6:07. Our next item on the agenda is citizens' time. Thank you. And I'll remind you that you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. If you come to the podium, please, and state your name and where you're from, and I'd appreciate it. And our first speaker is Steve Gregson. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Steve Gregson, own property in Fancy Gap, but live actually in South Carolina. I wanted to come here this evening. Last week, I was invited by EDA member Reverend Ronnie Collins to present my concerns regarding the hiring process of the part-time executive director of the EDA. My concerns were, where was the transparency and what was the hurry during the process of hiring a part-time executive director? Not to burden you with the full presentation that can be found on YouTube and hopefully in the minutes as record soon, but want to highlight some of the takeaways, especially since my questions have not been acknowledged nor answered by the chairman of the EDA, for which I find very disturbing and completely disrespectful. For the record, all can be found in the minutes of the EDA, and the Board of Supervisors are as follows that I'll share with you. At the November 2nd EDA meeting in 2020, the meetings reflect, quote, duties of the executive director was submitted by Mr. Edwards to review so they can be sent to the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Dalton said he would submit those to the Board of Supervisors. Motion by Mr. Collins, second by Mr. Carter, up to 30 hours weekly, report to the EDA board, and, quote, we, board, meaning the authority, in turn will report to the Board of Supervisors. Motion by Mr. Collins, second by Mr. Sowers, to advertise the position, quote, if the board approves for 30 days, then proceed with hire. Why 30 days? What was the hurry? Where was the copy of the duties the public never saw? A week later, on the November 9th, the Board of Supervisors had a meeting. Mr. Dalton, quote, stated that you have a job description in front of you. The motion by Mr. Moore, second by Mr. Hill, quote, to approve for the EDA to advertise and to hire a part-time executive director to be paid by the EDA board. So the record is clear. Mr. Dalton gave the Board of Supervisors a job description that the public did not see, and then you all voted for the EDA to go ahead and advertise and to hire a part-time executive director. One could choose that the job description, quote unquote, was not part of the motion, but that would appear to be very deceiving and deceptive. On 3/1 of this year, the EDA had a meeting. The new employee was announced and welcomed to his first meeting. There were no minutes proved at the recent EDA meeting due to some technical failures. Without the approval of minutes, even the chairman taking liberties, why was the employee allowed to be at the meeting? Without the approval of the minutes, does or does not the MOU exist? But prior to this, an EDA member had brought the employee back to the room to the Board of Supervisors meeting on 2/22/21, announcing that he had been hired, even though the MOU had not been approved. On 3/8 of last month's meeting, there was 3 actions taken by this board. One in the consent calendar, under Personnel, Economic Development Authority. Donald Bryant hired part-time EDA director, $30.26 an hour, effective date February 23rd, 2001. With regards to a letter to Mr. Dalton to Mr. Watson with the request to create a line code for part-time executive director, that was effective on the day that you voted, which was March 8, 21. MOU, this is the first time that the citizens saw the MOU, only covers back to March 1st, 2001, and the document does not reflect the previous actions and wishes of the EDA and the Board of Supervisors. So I took the time to ask the EDA many questions, and again, not to state, as I stated earlier, I have had no response from the EDA. Besides the liability issues at hand on who authorized payments for employee who had not been hired or vetted properly, the main questions from boards are, when this board authorized the EDA to advertise and hire this position, it was based upon the job description at the time that was presented to you. With regards to the candidate, his Lincoln social media pages with his education and job experience, this candidate fails to meet the requirements set by the EDA and set by this board. When the board voted on 3/8, it was based upon the EDA would advertise and hire a candidate that met the qualifications. There is no record of EDA closing the process or even open up after the 30 days. I would request an independent investigation into if there was any members that were involved in the process that had prior knowledge of an applicant that failed to disclose a relationship or have prior knowledge of any issues that might affect their vote without prior disclosure or conflict of interest. In closing, let me just add that today I attended at noon, there was, and I'm going to call it, in my own words, this is my own words, a illegal EDA meeting, and observed a member who was allowed to place a very factual complaint on the record. Immediately after the member finished, the chairman stated, quote, "You are entitled to your opinion, you are entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your facts," end of quote. Seriously? This was exactly what the complaint was about. One has to ask the question, if this is how the chairman treats members and citizens, then how does he treat prospective businesses? Is this one of the reasons why Carroll County is at a deficient with economic development? Therefore, I call upon the board to demand that the EDA, quote, "go back and do over," end of quote, with complete disclosure and transparency under the complete guidance of council and human resources, abiding by all county procedures and policies. Thank you for this time in this matter.
Our timer is not working, so you actually got a little bit more than 2 minutes. I think you unplugged it. Our next speaker is Sue Quesenberry. Welcome.
Get this on. My name's Sue Quesenberry, and I live on I used to live on Duncan Mill Nut Road. And I've been trying to get that road paved since 1993. They came out and surveyed the land. They went down and had people to sign and give them permission, which they did. They went ahead and they surveyed it a second time and pushing the marker further back on my land. And then they come out and surveyed a third time, which I didn't mind because I really wanted the road. So they went ahead and they widened the road. And then they went on down to the end of Duncan Mill Road, which is a hill that goes straight down, and we call it Larmy Hill. and it's very deadly. It's still deadly right now. But they said they spent the rest of the money in the budget for that year on fixing that up some. Well, I didn't mind that. So I kept aggravating everybody, Bob Martin, and he kept telling me it's in a 5-year plan. So 93 to right now is more than a 5-year plan. And I have talked to Mr. Moore, and I have talked to Mr. Ronald Newman, and brought them documents I had before they had put the road, widened the road, took the land, returned the land to the owner. And I have talked to this Lisa Hughes, when Bob told me it was in the next 6-year plan. And she said it was not. And I do not see it down here now. And I still would like that road paved. It is very bad, and Mr. Moore has drove down the road himself, plus Piney Fork Road. And my daddy is 82 years old, and I lost my mama a couple years ago. And he just almost can't get out. And some of our neighbors cannot get out. So I want you to try to put it in the plan or do something for the road. Just scraping the gravels out of the ditch and putting back on the road and smoothing it down does not fix the problem. So that's all I got to say.
What was the name of the road one more time?
Duncan Mill.
Duncan Mill Road.
Duncan.
I
It
do have
was
one question, Sue. Is it
757.
757?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I've done everything I can think of. I've begged, I've pleaded, I've called everybody, I've aggravated everybody to death, and it still ain't done. So thank you a lot for listening to me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Next speaker is Ronald Dawson. Welcome.
Hope all y'all doing good tonight. I'm Ronald Dawson.
If you want to take
Yep.
your mask off, it'll maybe be easier here. Thank you.
My name is Ronald Dawson. I own properties on both sides of Duncan Mill Road. Now, that's my mother that just spoke. So I know for a long time we've been trying to get the road fixed, and we gave up a good piece of land, and we lost a lot of fencing doing that. They paid us for it. Currently, I'm getting land resurveyed because that land where they moved the road over, now some of the land's on the other side of the road, and I'm paying out of my pocket to do that. And it's not cheap to do surveying, but I'm on her side. I'm not upset about having to pay a little bit for something if you get what you want out of it. But you're looking at almost 30 years later, we still don't have any pavement. The road's still horrible. I drive a Jeep Cherokee, and I bottomed my Jeep Cherokee out going home. And if any of y'all have SUV, it's hard to bottom out an SUV. But you hit these bumps, and it's not a road that you can drive on, especially older people. A lot of older people live out there. A lot of times if the weather's bad, you stay home. You can't get out. I've wondered also if anything would help kind of move it along. Is it cheaper to keep doing what people are doing that doesn't work and having to come out there 3 or 4 times a year than it would be to maybe not put down a nice pavement, put down some type of more permanent style of road? And I knew Mr. Moore there, and I'm through some other people. But yeah, I'm just asking for that, some type of funding to fix the road a little better. The scraping, basically it causes flat tires. It makes the road, when it rains, it makes it even worse. Because you'll wind up with ditches full of gravel, and then they have to come out and scrape again if they have the time to do it. I'd appreciate it if somebody could look into that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tracy, is any of that road paved?
No,
It's all-
it
it's all
is for
gravel.
a while, and then it goes gravel, and then you go down. I think when it was on and Lisa's may refresh my memory because I wasn't on the board at that time, but they done a lot of work down at the bridge. It is all, me and Brad went and looked at it last week, and it is all wide, and, hopefully we can get on there for surface treatment. So.
I was just wondering, maybe that The reason it's not on there now is because they paved a portion
No, I
of it.
think they used most of it down at the bridge. Am I correct in that, Lisa? Yeah, up the hill from the bridge. Yes, yeah. So,
Our next speaker is Steve Bond. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Is Steve Bond? Welcome.
My concern this afternoon, and this may not be the day for this, but was for the training center and the new incoming over there. I have an elderly mother that lives close by, and I am concerned with, maybe what's going to go on at the training center. She's elderly. The house almost looks abandoned at times, and my concern is kind of what's going to go on there. This may not have been on the agenda today, but I will speak if I'm here, and maybe we can address that at another time. But I would like to voice my concerns for what maybe the plans are for the training center in the future there. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
That's everyone who signed up. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak during citizens' time? All right, thank you. We'll take those comments under consideration. Unfortunately for Sue and Ronald, those are kind of VDOT questions, but we'll do what we can push a little bit maybe as Lisa's here and she heard your concerns. And we'll hear from her just a little bit later. Our next item is payment of invoices. We need a motion to approve that.
I make a motion, we pay the invoices as presented.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote. I'll start with Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. The next item is approving the minutes of our previous meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, and maybe Mr. Durbin can help with this. I would like us reconsider a motion that was passed and approved at the last meeting. Do we need to approve the minutes before I do that, or?
Yes, so
Okay.
you can make a motion to reconsider the action taken at a previous meeting,
Okay.
but that doesn't change what was decided and what was done at that previous meeting. So your vote on the minutes is just a vote that, yes, this is what took place at that meeting.
Okay.
These were the topics discussed and the actions taken.
Okay.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made to approve the minutes as presented from the last meeting. I'll start the voting with Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Yes. Under new business, the first item is the consent calendar. I'm sorry, I can't speak tonight. And that does need to be approved if you so agree.
Make a motion, we approve the consent calendar.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the consent calendar? Sensing you're ready to vote, I'll start with Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. Our next item is whether we want to establish a cigarette tax board or not. And again, this is not to set any kind of tax, it's just simply to establish the board in the event that we would like to do so, and this is a regional board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I've spoke to several people about this once it came out in the paper and everything about Carroll County doing a cigarette tax, and no one has been in favor of it. I've talked to people in the county that own stores, and then we have a statement today from a store owner that's in my district. I don't think we need to put another tax on the citizens of this county. Okay, and especially a tax that just says we're going to tax cigarettes. I don't smoke, and this lady in this letter didn't smoke. But to enter this with Mount Rogers and share the tax with other facilities, I don't understand that. And then what's going to be the next one? Are we going to tax bananas? Are we going to tax apples? Are we going to tax a carrot? This is just something that the state of Virginia has given us the right to do, and I don't think personally, and with the input that I've got from people in my district, that we should even consider doing a cigarette tax in Carroll County. And that's all I got to say.
thank you. Is there anyone else like to speak?
I'd like to second what Joe said. Floyd County, the businesses in my district, people just go over the Floyd County line. And, I think our local stores, I appreciate them 100%. We had a power outage in Dougspur last night, and with the Deli Mart store was closed, had to go to Willis. I think another tax burden is going to really hurt them, and Cana too. What's going to keep the citizens from going from Cana to North Carolina, and them businesses down there, they're done competing with Dollar General and Family Dollar, and so I agree with Joe. I think it's just another tax that we're putting on our citizens, and I don't agree with it.
Anyone else want to speak?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
looking at the tax they already got on them, I'm totally opposed to it. And like I said, there in Cana, the places that I've got responded from, they're going to get them in North Carolina, and people up here in Hillsville and all back down that way or in Mount Airy, they're not going to pay extra tax. I don't smoke, and I can't ride in the car with you smoking, so that's not the reason. I just don't want to add more tax on the smoker. Thank you.
you're welcome. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like just reiterate what all three of these gentlemen have said, and I've had a few people contact me, and I've had try to weigh that in, and I've had more people contact me that didn't need to be happening and that it did need to be supported. So I feel like that's what we need to do.
Anyone else? My feeling was that I felt like we probably should, this is my opinion, that we should approve the tax board, but that does not say that we will put the tax on it at any time, but it gives us the option to at a later time. So that was my position.
Mr. Douglas, my question is, if everybody else tax around us and we don't approve this, then we're out of it, correct? We don't approve this, the joining of Mount Rogers.
So if you don't join, you could always adopt the tax and administer it yourself. You'd always have that option. You could join and adopt a tax at any rate from 40 cents per pack down. Maximum tax is 2 cents per cigarette. You could join the taxing authority, the tax board, at a later time if you reconsider.
We're not taking comments from the audience, I'm sorry, at this time.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if you would, we've joined so many things, over the 3+ years that I've been here, and what has Carroll County got out of it? Nothing. They're taking our money, they're using it to benefit themselves. And I can go in further detail on that, and I will later on in the meeting. But what's the guarantee? If we join this board and we say, okay, 40 cents a pack, how are they going to divide the money up? Are they
I
going to?
can clarify that, sir, if you'd like.
Yes, sir, please.
Every cent tax in Carroll County would be paid to Carroll County. You would pay overhead. You'd share the costs of the agents that would administer the tax. But once the tax boards, if there's an automobile that needs to be paid, if there's a printer and computer and office space, once those expenses are paid, every cent paid in Carroll County by taxpayers would go into the Carroll County coffers. You're not sharing the revenue, you're sharing the expenses.
Yeah, and we're sharing the expenses. And I'm going to bring this up because, if you don't mind, Brasida. This board joined Brasida. This county joined Brasida years and years ago to get Wildwood something. And this county has paid hundreds of thousands of dollars more than the city of Galax and Grayson County. And what have we got to show for it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That's all I got. Yes, ma'am. I just don't think that we need to go there. And like 3 of us spoke here, we don't need to put another tax burden on the citizens of our county. We've got enough taxes right now. Thank you.
I haven't heard a motion, have I?
No.
That's what I thought.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we do not join the cigarette tax board.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Is it? You second?
Yep.
Any further discussion? We kind of got the horse before the cart, but that's okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Any additional discussion? All right, the motion is not to join the cigarette tax board, which is a regional affair, and I'll start with Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Robin McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Phil McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
and I vote no. And the motion passes that we will not be joining the board. Our next item is Ms. Hughes with VDOT. Welcome again.
Thank you. Oh, good, good. Yes, just a few things for you. I have brought the resolutions for the rural rustic projects that we intend to construct this summer. And there are 6 of those. And ask you consider those, and we can move on with scheduling our projects. And they are Baltimore Road, Dickerson Road, Grace Lane, Harrison Drive, Steelhouse Road, and Turner School Road.
Do we need to do those individually, or can they be done as a group?
I think you can do them as a group. That would be fine.
You have before you 6 resolutions for 6 roads to be included in the rural rustic for the coming year under the 6-year road plan. And Ms. Hughes is asking for us to pass resolutions for those roads.
I make a motion that we put C, A, B, C, D, E, and F. All the resolutions for Baltimore, Dickerson, Grace, Harrison, Steelhouse, and Turner School.
Thank you. There's been a motion to approve the resolutions for the 6 roads. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Since you're ready to vote then, I'll start with Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Did you want to present the draft of the 6-year road plan?
I can. I think each of you have a copy of that. And what that is, it's just that, we didn't have a public hearing last year. So it is the 6-year plan from 2019. I haven't added anything to it. I know I have gotten requests from you all, Kinzer Road, Laurel Mountain Road, Mill Creek Road, and I've kept those, and I'll bring them up when we have our public hearing in May. But you can see by the priority list, we'll be constructing through priority 7. So we'll be starting out anew with 898 and adding from there.
Can you address the concerns of Ms. Questenberry that was here tonight?
Yes, sir, I would be glad to, and, I'll certainly review the maintenance of Duncan Mill. But she and I had talked a couple years ago, and I believe she was under the impression it was on the priority list, but it wasn't, and it is not. So, that's something you all can look at adding after our hearing next month, along with the other requests that you've received.
And you'll give us a traffic count and those kind of things?
Yes, sir, I'd be glad to.
Does anyone else have any questions of?
Yeah, just one, we can't add roads tonight.
No, sir.
You wanna do that
Really
next
needs
month?
to be at the public hearing.
Public hearing. Okay, thank you.
What about the resolution about the training center road?
I didn't know. Okay, yes, sir, if you all could, we ask for your concurrence in us abandoning that road.
Okay, you each should have a copy of a resolution to abandon a total of 1.09 miles, which is State Route 392, which solely served the old Southwest Virginia Training Center, which I assume that's the road within the property.
Yes.
We'll need a motion for that if you agree, or a motion to not do it if you disagree.
Quick question, please, sir. So if we abandon this tonight, whoever owns the property will have to take care of that road?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the abandonment of the road that serves the training center.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. I'll start with Mr. Philip McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes to abandon Route 392, 6-0. Thank you very much. You have anything else?
Just one thing, I understand last month, maybe there were some concerns voiced about maintenance and, condition of roadways, so, if you've got anything or specific or anything you want me to address, I'll be glad to, or explain funding, or, so, just give me a call, or I can make a presentation, whatever you all want to do.
Is Grayson County in your district?
No, sir.
That's what I thought, because there's a big hole there.
Okay.
A bad
I
hole.
have to drive over every day, so.
I do have a question. I noticed that there was an announcement for Washington County and West County to put 3 lanes on some of the inclines. Is there anything for 77?
No, not at this time.
But we are having to pay the tax, gas tax, because of the 77, correct?
Yes, you are. However, I did want to explain that to you, that regional tax for 81, for Carroll County, those revenues go from what's called the district grant fund. And that's the funds that are spent within the Salem district, but they are what's used when you apply for a smart scale project. That's what funds those projects. And also the district grant fund also funds your unpaved roads. So it's multi-uses, but your 77 or your 81 regional tax, it does not go to 81. It goes in that district grant fund, which is spent within the Salem district. And, excuse me, I did have 2 more things. Sorry. I had a lot of stuff. I knew I was going to get all out of order, but the spring transportation hearing used to be our spring 6-year plan hearing. This is for all roads in the Salem district. That is going to be May the 5th, but it's going to be virtual, I believe. And I don't have any details right now other than the date. But that is the spring transportation meeting. And I also wanted to let you know that the bridge on Fattest Hill over Crooked Creek, that's scheduled for advertisement later this summer, and it's going to be replaced here pretty soon. That project's coming up. And I also wanted to get your concurrence. The pipes on Stone Mountain Road at Mill Creek Golf Course, we're getting ready to replace those with 2 pretty huge box culverts, and we're going to be detouring traffic, probably from as much as 120 days. But we have worked with the golf course very closely, and we're going to actually do that work in the wintertime to accommodate their busy season. So I did want to let you know, and I'd be asking for a letter of concurrence that you agree with that project. But that is a maintenance project.
I do have one other comment. Speaking of bridges, on the Elkhorn Road, there are 4 bridges in a row,
Yes.
about halfway through. One of those is so narrow that if you have a trailer on a truck and you meet a full-size pickup truck, there's barely room for the 2 to pass without hitting the guardrail.
Okay, so it is the width of the bridge. I know we had talked about
And
the bridges on
if you look at the
Elkhorn.
wooden sides, you can tell that people have been hitting it periodically.
Okay.
So
All right,
if you stretch it a couple of feet, it would really make a big difference.
okay.
It's a width and it's in a curve also. I mean, it
Yeah.
kind of makes it really unhandled. Just a slight curve, but it makes it tough.
Glad to take it.
Anybody else got anything for Ms. Hughes?
I do.
Okay.
Any updates on the Brushy Fork curves or?
No, sir, but it would be my recommendation. What we need to do is add that
Yeah.
to our 6-year plan list. And even though we've got the funding to do it, it's not a project, so we can't buy right away that we need to put.
That's serious. I see that school bus pass, then I see a tractor and trailer come by. I hope they didn't meet in that curve, you know?
But no, sir, if we can get it added, then we can proceed with the right-of-way acquisition that we
Thank
need
you.
to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Lisa.
Our next item under new business is a revision of our budget calendar, and I need approval to change some of those dates, please. And we also probably need to set some times. I don't think those were listed.
Mr. Chair, I would like to, I'm okay with the dates, but I'd like to see the times adjusted to be at 5:30 if at all possible.
Okay, so we use the dates that are set on the revision and then have the meetings at 5:30?
That would be
Okay, is
great.
there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the budget calendar revision motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote with Mr. Moore.
Hang on just a second. Did you make a motion and second it?
No, he made the
Oh,
motion
okay.
and I
All right.
seconded it.
Rex made the motion.
All right,
He had a
I'm just
question
making sure.
about it.
Yeah, I vote yes
You're
then.
trying to confuse me.
I'm just making sure.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Robin McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. The next item under new business is we need to set a public hearing, I guess at our next meeting for discussion of some land use fees. And the motion is simply to set the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, here again, why are we going down this road with land use? We fought this for 2 years. And I thought this board said it, that we're not doing nothing with it. What?
This is the fee, not the land use.
I know, but it has to do with land use.
Okay, the commissioner's wanting another person. You want to volunteer?
No. Why does she need another person? She got rid of the one she had last year. And now she wants another one. Why? Nothing's changed in this county. And y'all want to change the land use fees to hire another employee for this county. I'm totally against even going there. Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, we don't have a motion yet, so I won't ask for further discussion.
Back just like Joe said, you know, to the cigarette tax and land use. We killed this last year and it was on a motion that it wouldn't be even brought back up for like 5 years. And here we are, a year later. And back again taxing, I just, I can't go with it. So.
Well, we have three choices. We can have a motion to do it, to have a public hearing, or to not have a public hearing, or it can die for lack of a motion. So those are your choices.
I make a motion, we set the public hearing.
At the next meeting
Yes,
at 6 o'clock?
yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, now we can have some more discussion. There's a motion and a second to have it at our next regular board meeting at 6 o'clock, a public hearing. Hearing no more discussion, I'm assuming you're ready to vote, and I'll start with Mr. Moore,
No,
Mr. Webb,
No.
Mr. Philip McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes 4-2 to hold a public hearing at our next meeting at 6 o'clock.
Excuse me.
Our next item is the DMV stop appropriation, and we've been asked to approve $5,500 for the remainder of this year so that it'll be in the budget and not have to be asked for each individual time.
Make a motion, we approve the appropriation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote on the appropriation of $5,500 for the DMV stops. And I'll start with Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
yes.
Yes. Thank you. Is there any additional new business that I don't have on the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I would like for us to reconsider a motion made on, at our March meeting on 3/8 with the MOU with the EDA. I'd like to see us maybe change that motion, or I know I open it for reconsideration, but I think if we can rescind it at the next meeting, if the vote with public notice of it. Is that correct, Mr. Durbin?
So approval of the MOU is not an ordinance that you need to advertise and have a public hearing on. Mr. Gregson has raised some points tonight. He and I discussed earlier today that he was going to email me the text of his statements and kind of lay out his concerns. If you're interested in tabling that, I'd be happy to look into it and have a response prepared at the next meeting.
I'm very uncomfortable with the way this, after what Mr. Gregson brought to light. It's very uncomfortable for me the way that it was handled and that the MOU come after everything was said and done. And I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I think we need to make some kind of movement on it. If it's wait till the next meeting, I'm all for that. But, I just think that it's something that we need to address.
If I could volunteer a suggestion, it would be to just a motion to put this on for consideration on the agenda at the next meeting. I personally would like a little time to look at his concerns and make a response.
I'm up for suggestions from the rest of the board, so.
I think we need to look at it, or at least get some input from it, so I guess we can, just table it till next month and give us some information on that.
You might want to make a motion to actually have him look into it.
All right, I'll make a motion, Mr. Durbin look into that MOU. Get back
And
to us.
bring back suggestions.
I would ask that you expound on that a little bit, him investigating it to look into the dates that everything transpired and how everything was transpired. And I would also like maybe the portion of the qualifications be addressed also. Looking at what we were presented as a board, as the job description, and I've not actually seen nothing from anyone about it other than what Mr. Gregson said in his presentation, that according to his social media and LinkedIn page, he didn't meet the requirements. I'd like to know if he did actually meet the requirements before this board considers to support it. So anything you can get with it for us would be greatly appreciated.
Mr. Hill, would you agree to adding that to your motion?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any additional discussion? In that case, since there's none, I'll start the voting with Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Yes. We'll visit with you next meeting then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's all the new business I have with the addition of that one. And hearing none, we'll go to old business, and the first one is committee appointments, and we have a social services opening, and I think that we had 2 folks who have applied for that.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Tracy Moore to fill that position as a board member.
Is that something a board member can fulfill? I don't know.
That's good.
We have a board member serving already, so I don't know why
I don't recall anything in any of the information that I've seen about the board members, but it doesn't mean it's not there. But
I was always under the impression that it needs to be a citizen.
that's
You're a citizen, aren't you?
a citizen of the county. Yeah.
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, I got lost there for a second.
He seconded it. Rex seconded it.
I'm sorry, say what?
Rex did second the motion.
Okay. I just want to make sure it was as it's supposed to be. Okay. Mr. Moore has been nominated to that appointment for the Board of Social Services Board. Any discussion? I'll start the voting with Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Abstain.
Yes. And that brings us to the second section of old business, which is setting the tax levy for the real estate for 2022. We advertised that and had a public hearing at 69 cents, which means we cannot go above that, but we can go below that. And as I understand it, 67 cents is our revenue neutral number.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we set the tax levy at 64 cents per hundred. And this is the reason I say that. Yes, 67 cents will be equal revenue from last year. And it put a burden on our taxpayers last year. And 67 cents again this year is going to put another burden on them. And if you look at the treasurer's report of how much money that we've got at this point in the bank, we need to give our tax citizens a break. We need to show them that we care about them. And they have full confidence in what this board's doing. So I would like to make a motion to set the tax levy at 64 cents per hundred.
I'll second that, Joe.
Okay, is there a discussion? We have a motion and a second to go for 64 cents for real estate.
Not only the taxpayers, I think, we put a burden on our employees also.
Yes.
Yes. Them's the two biggest things this board needs to have is, I feel like this year through land use, cigarette tax levy is, put our citizens and our employees number one. That's what our job is as supervisors, and I feel that's important, so.
Anybody else?
Well, that means they're gonna cut the health insurance, pay raises,
We got a meeting Monday night. We'll try to find a way to make it. It don't necessarily have to be all of them.
and EMS.
Yeah, you want to talk about that, Rex? For 3 years, I've tried to get EMS in Laurel Fork District. Have I got anything? No, not a thing. So you keep bringing up EMS and you keep bringing up insurance and you keep bringing up this, and we keep taxing our citizens and they're getting nothing for it. Nothing.
Well, the EMS would be for the retirement.
I'm sorry. You got to think about John Q. Public that's sitting out there trying to pay their taxes, and what are they getting for it? An increase every year. If we go with 69 cents, they're getting another increase another year. And what do they get for it? Absolutely nothing. When you can show me that we need a tax increase and you can show me where it's going to go to help these people out, I'll vote for it. But not now. Not now. And that's just the way I feel. I'm sorry. But enough is enough is enough. Thank you.
Anybody else want to have a discussion? My feeling is that we worked really hard last year to work ourselves out of a deep financial hole. We were successful. And my thought is to keep revenue neutral this year.
Yeah, it was successful. Dr. Littrell, how much money's in the bank March 31st this year? How much?
How much are we supposed to have to cover what we're required to have under?
I don't know.
Well,
but how much is in there right now?
I know how much is in there now. How much are we supposed to keep?
According to Mr. Dalton, our interim county administrator, he wanted $60 million in there. We're not in the banking business. We're not to take these people money and sit on it and not let them get the advantage of what they're paying their taxes for.
Your point's taken.
Do what?
Your point is taken.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote, and I'll start with Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
No.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Robert McCraw.
Yes.
No. The vote passes 4-2. The real estate tax will be set at 64 cents.
Make a motion that we have the county administrator prepare a budget to meet that make it revenue neutral?
Based on 64 cents?
Yes.
Okay. There's a motion that the county administrator prepare a budget based on 64 cents of revenue. Is there a second?
I second that.
Any discussion?
I'm gonna amend that. To not eat up into our revenue that was set aside by our code. So that means there's gonna have to be tremendous cuts, I would assume. We've got a 12% that we gotta have set aside.
To not use fund balance?
Fund balance, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So that we have to have, set a budget that we don't eat into that fund balance.
Okay, there's been a motion. Is there a second?
What's the fund balance total?
12% of which would probably be around, probably 10 million.
Okay. Yeah, I'll second that.
Any more discussion? Okay, since you're ready to vote, I'll start with Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Philip McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes 6-0.
Dr. Littrell, could I speak on an issue? Sorry to be out of turn. I'm a little bit slower than you all are moving this evening, and I apologize for that. The issue was, or the question was asked whether there was a concern with more than one member of the Board of Supervisors serving on the Social Services Board. During discussion, I was able to pull up the Code of Virginia, and it unfortunately takes a little while to find because it's different for each form of government. But under the county board form of government, section 15.2-412 provides that the Board of County Supervisors shall select 3 qualified citizens of the county, one of whom may be a member of the Board of County Supervisors, who shall constitute the local Board of Social Services. So I think we are limited to just one Board of Supervisors member. And you can address that one of several ways, but I think we need to take some action on that motion.
Okay. So right now we have 2. Would one like to withdraw their?
Yes.
Thank you. I was about ready to let you just take it for a while.
That's why I gave you all a choice.
I got there quick. And
Okay.
I'll make a motion to table that appointment for another month.
Okay.
So
There's
to
a
clarify,
motion.
the motion would be to rescind the action of tonight to appoint Mr. Moore and to table appointment?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make that motion that you just voted.
Rescind the original
Yeah.
appointment and to table it to next time. Okay, is there a second to that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
He needs a second.
A second.
Thank you. Appreciate you passing it down the line.
I was hoping somebody else would do it.
There's been a motion and a second to rescind our original appointment to the Social Services Board and to table the appointment till next time. I'll assume that you're ready to vote. I'll start with Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Mr. Robin McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I do have somebody who had considered that he was going to be on the agenda to speak, and it did not get on there, so I'm going to make an exception this time and ask if Mr. Bowman would like to come and speak. It's actually under old business.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening.
Sorry for the mix-up.
That's all right. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is David Boatman, live over in Woodlawn near the old training center facility. Last time we were here, a representative from the Life Center was here speaking about 180 jobs they were going to be providing to the community with that facility. And also the fact that the Life Center in Galax had only had one police call in the last year. Most of it was just paper service. He encouraged us to look further into that and just check on it ourselves. What I did was, I went to the chief of police of Galax, asked for the 2019 and 2020 911 dispatch calls, in which he handed me these, which is some 400 calls of EMS and police in a year's time to just that facility. So the man was right. It's not just one call there. There's right at 400. Now, also we looked into the 180 jobs they promised coming. That company, Acadia Health, is required to file what is called a certificate of need for application so that they can put a facility like that here in Carroll County. So I requested a copy of that from the state of Virginia. I have some copies of this for y'all to review and look at this evening at your own time. Their certificate of need application, where not what they say but what they put in writing, shows 100 patients full-time with 120 patients coming every day by Medicaid transport. That's a total of 220 patients from the beginning at that facility every day. What I looked at then was, for the year 2023 and 2024 that they have to put in writing, how many employees will they have? That gentleman told us 180. But their application says 52. The staff will be 52. In 2024, they'll be as high as 60.6. That's not 180 by any means. This is their application to the state, I repeat. He also promised 24-hour security, 24/7. The staff that they're going to have for security for the year, 2.8. That's 2, maybe it's a short person, 0.8 people to be security. That's not even one person every 8 hours. So how they work 2.8 staff for security, and that gives us 24-hour security for 220 patients on the grounds of 95 acres, which they can expand. I don't know how secure I'm going to feel knowing there's not even one person every 8 hours. They have a doctor, Maria Incarnation, that is over their clinical doctor. She is listed by them as the medical director and doctor for that facility and will be for Galax. She's the medical and clinical director. This person has had their license restricted multiple times by the state. This is all on DHP. You can look this up. Restricted multiple times for writing pain prescription medication in an improper and not lawful manner. Her license at one point in the state of Virginia was completely revoked. She has lost her license in the state of New York, where she is permanently prohibited from administering any controlled substances since 2010. That's who's going to be overwriting the prescriptions for Suboxone and some of the medications that will be at that facility. Someone who has violated it and had to go through classes to get it back several times. There was a 2017 article in the Galax Gazette where the citizens of Galax were screaming and crying, please get some type of fence. Get us some security. You can read this article. That fence was looked at and promised since 2017. As of today, there is no privacy fence or security fence at that facility, which is not 1/100th of the size of the facility that they're going to have in Woodlawn. I'm very concerned over the safety and security of my family, my neighbors. If there are the 400 EMS and police calls there, that's going to increase our taxes. Someone will have to pay for that many police officers and that much EMS going to that facility. 911 will be clogged. Any resident within walking distance or business within walking distance of that facility will go down in tax value. That means the rest of the county will need to pick up the tab. I am still asking that this board do some type of public hearing some type of ordinance, some type of zoning stating that any facility that has this much trouble we know is coming be controlled to a point of fencing, security, something in that neighborhood to help the citizens. The man lied when he stood here and told you one police call. I've got the reports from the police chief of Galax. Some 400 plus calls. That's more than one. The 180 jobs he's promising, that's great for this county. But when they file the certificate of need and it says 50 and only 2.8 security guards in the 24-hour period for the year, it's not adding up. And in my opinion, that's wrong. I ask that this board, being mostly what I understand registered Republicans, not allow Richmond and the Democrats up there or the governor to push this deal through quietly and under the table, which is what's happening, into Carroll County and force us as citizens to deal with it and live with it when it's going to be a blight on us. I once again ask the board to look into that. Please do something. Please make a motion, anything. And I thank y'all for your time. I have some copies here I'd like to give y'all, if it's possible. Y'all can review these, look at them. It's got the case numbers, COPN. Verify what I'm saying. Thank y'all again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item I have under old business is approving the resolution to abandon a portion of Old Virginia State Route 725, which you have a copy of. And I think we have actually taken action on this, but we need to approve a final resolution.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could just advise the board, after the public hearing that the board held on this issue on February 8th, the motion was made to approve the abandonment subject to a deed of easement for the county to put utilities in and access it by county employees if needed. You directed me to prepare the resolution to accomplish that, and I've also prepared a deed of easement in draft form for the property owners. And so it's before you now to approve the resolution of abandonment with the conveyance back of the easement for utilities and right-of-way in the county.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the resolution for the road abandonment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Assuming there's none, I'll start with voting with Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Philip McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. And that concludes our old business as I know it. And the next item are board member comments, and I'm going to start with Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the staff. I want to thank the staff that works here in Carroll County and our employees. It's been tough, and I probably showed some horns I shouldn't have tonight, but, you know, kind of enough's enough. And Mr. Boatman, I want to address you. I hear you. I hear everything you're saying. And if I lived over there, I'd be exactly like you are. But the county has nothing to do with that property. That belongs to the state of Virginia. And yes, you want us to write a resolution for them to do that. This board, before I got here, Dr. Littrell can answer this, how many resolutions did we write to the state of Virginia and visits we made to try to give the state to give us that property to use it? I just feel like, you know, we can write a resolution for you, but it's just like what you said. Richmond don't hear us. Richmond don't hear us. But I will work with you, and I'll work with this board if they want to go that route. But, you know, I can't offer any hopes or promises that we can do anything about it because they have never listened to Carroll County, never. And I hope you have reached out to the delegates and the state senators that represent this district. And I wish you all luck because I understand. I hear you, brother. I hear you. And I agree with you totally. And I'll work on this board, but I do want people to understand we have nothing to do with that piece of property. I mean, we can't do anything about it. Welcome spring. You know, hope everybody had a wonderful Easter. Spring. I want to remind everybody, get your COVID shots. You know, get your COVID vaccinations. We'll see if they work or not. I know I've had both of mine, one in January, one in February, and so far, knock on wood, I haven't got it yet. But please do that. Listen to the health department. Do what they're saying to do. And such a good turnout tonight, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate you talking about your road. It's been on there since '93. That's ridiculous. 3 of the roads that they put on there tonight for me, I put on in 18, first year on the board. So I finally got them 3 years later. And so hang in there, okay? All right, other than that, I think that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Philip McCraw.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. And I think there's a misunderstanding about the land use fees. Land use went back in, and it hadn't been changed since 2004. And, you know, for forester land, about 396 acre, 435 or something like that for agriculture, and no tax on your farm equipment, you're getting a pretty good deal. At $25 sign it up and 25 cents an acre, and we're going to have to put somebody down there assessment year. You're going to have to hire somebody, and they're talking about not wanting to take your tax dollars and use them unwisely. If the farmer can't pay just a little bit more to sign up his property, there's something wrong. I mean, you shouldn't have to take it off the homeowner. They're already paying pretty good for their taxes. And not trying to be unfair with anybody. I got cattle. I got farm equipment. I'd be willing to pay tax on my farm equipment. But most of them are not. But that's a pretty good deal when they'll give me tax off on my tractors, my equipment, and then let me have the land at a cheap rate. I know we got one that comes here. He wants to hold everything down, but when I go to pay my insurance, every time it's gone up. You know, they don't ask me. They just keep going up on me. And I don't understand it. They go up on me. And I've told them, I said, decide what you're going to charge me for, my age or my driving record. They go up because I get older, still got a good driving record. I can't understand that. I guess I fussed a lot about that. But that ain't fair. Nobody goes to bat for me. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. McCraw. Mr. Hill?
Yes, Mr. Durbin, is there without zoning, is there anything we can do as far as making a facility like that, specific for a facility like that to do a fence?
Fence law really applies to
Cattle.
livestock. You fence them in or fence them out, and that really relates to the damage that's done if livestock is not fenced in, if you're a fence-in locality. Other than adopting a zoning ordinance consistent with your comprehensive plan, there's not much to be done to regulate use of property within the county. If it complies with building code, if it complies with storm water regulations, if it complies with other generally applicable law, I mean, zoning is your tool.
So even a specific facility, we couldn't require any type of fence.
You could adopt certain fencing requirements as part of your zoning ordinance.
But then it would reflect on the whole county, correct?
You'd have to adopt it. It has to be consistent with your comprehensive plan. You do not need to zone the entire county. There are a few counties in Virginia, I believe, that only have sort of near their population centers zoned.
Okay.
But I'm not. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of good tools to address the situation other than zoning.
I do know that another property owner has expressed a concern because even during when the training center was there, they had people to come down and cross. There's a trail going down to his property, so there, of course, and that's something I think we need to look at to see what we can do. As he said, good fences make good neighbors. So I guess the first thing we can do is go to planning commission and see what possibly they could do. To see if it matched the comprehensive plan.
Yes, I mean, we could. The discussion must begin with the planning commission. They've got to make a recommendation. I think you can request the planning commission to look into what a proposed zoning ordinance would look like. You can give that directive and ask them to make a recommendation.
Sure, Ronald's not going to be happy to hear that, are you, Ronald? He said about me back. That's all I've got to say.
I don't think he heard you.
Yeah. Thank everybody for coming.
Mr. Robbie McCraw.
Just one clarification, Steve, if you don't mind. On the DSS board, there is 6 people that serve on that board total, right? And of that, 3 of that 6 has to be citizens, and only one of those 3 can be a board member.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And I'm going to take a few minutes, Tom, I believe, because I got something I got to get off my chest. When we appoint people to boards on this board, when this board of supervisors appoints people to different boards and serves in this county, we're appointing them as direct representatives of ourselves and of this county. And I'm bringing this up to express my total embarrassment and dissatisfaction with the conduct of the EDA board at their last 2 meetings. We all sign a code of ethics. We all sign a model of excellence. And at the last meeting, the last regular meeting, which was last Monday, the decorum in that meeting was unacceptable. The way that some of the members treated other members, and the way that some of the members treated a citizen that was there speaking, was not what I would expect anybody on this board to do. I certainly don't want to be treated that way, and I don't think anybody else would treat anybody else that way. And with saying that, I'm going to make a motion, and I may not get a second, and I may get run out of town, but I'm going to make a motion that we suspend funding to the EDA until we can get some particulars worked out. Not saying suspend it completely. I'm just a temporary suspend funding to the EDA. Thank you. And thank you all for being here.
Okay, there's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that?
Rex.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on Mr. McCraw's motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. If we suspend their funding, what's going to happen? I mean, are they out of business, or, I mean, they got bills to pay, they've got things to do. We suspend their funding? I don't understand. I mean, and I know he said it's temporary, but say we cut it for 60, 90 days. How much trouble are they going to be in? Don't they owe a lot of bills now from the emails I've been seeing?
Do they get rent?
According to their financial statements, they have money.
Yeah.
They've got money to pay a executive director, and just looking at their financial statements, they have money. And I'm saying this is a temporary thing till we can work through some of this distension on that board. I mean, it's in my opinion, it's just not good, and it's bad. It looks bad on us, and I don't care for anybody knowing it. My daughter serves on that board. She was nominated by Rex and put on that board, and I did not vote. I abstained from that. I'm trying to be neutral in it, and I've tried to stay neutral in it. But the professionalism and the decorum in those meetings, if you will take the time to sit down and watch them, I think you will see what I'm talking about.
Okay, okay, all right, that's all. I just want to know if,
I understand, Joe, and I appreciate that. So
I think she was nominated by Bob.
I don't remember. I don't know. I thought Rex, but I don't know.
Any other comments?
Yeah. Yes, the EDA is not elected. They're appointed by the board. And the PSA, you don't vote on them. The board puts them in. So it should be the board to expect a little cooperation out of them. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I haven't seen the meeting, so I'd really like time to look at them. I know that I was told to, and I apologize I haven't. But the one thing that concerns me is we're a PSA board, we're a board of supervisors, and they're an EDA board. And am I right? You're counsel for all three of us, correct?
Yes.
And so, you know, I'm not saying nothing there. I'm just saying, you know, if we're all working under the same code of ethics, you know, is that something that we can do as far as, you know, the whole display of the PSA, the EDA. You know, I see emails all the time of PSA funding going to the EDA, back to the PSA, back to the board, you know. I mean, I know you understand your motion. I would just like some clarification from legal counsel on how that whole, like Joe said, how that whole avenue works, you know.
So if there is a funding agreement in place where the Board of Supervisors approve a certain specific fund or specific agreement with the EDA, I think the EDA would have the right to enforce that particular agreement.
I could see that. I would not argue that point one bit. I mean, if we're obligated, we're obligated to that. But anything that other than what has to be.
Anyone else? I'm not really against the intent, but I think I'm against the method. So
Gotcha.
I think in my opinion, we could find another way to address the problem and work its way. That's just me, though. I'm just one of six.
Well, it just needs to be addressed.
I would not disagree with that. Anybody else got anything you'd like to say? Okay, the motion that's been seconded is to withhold funding to the EDA on a temporary basis until some other items can be worked out. Did I restate that correctly?
It's good enough.
Okay, I'll start the vote with Mr. Webb,
no.
Mr. Philip McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Robert McCraw,
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
No.
I vote no. That's a tie vote, which does not pass.
Does not
today.
change.
Motion fails
Motion fails.
on a tie vote.
Okay. But thank you for your comments, and hope we can get it worked out. You're next. That got me off track there.
Hey, some tough gigs to follow tonight, so I'm just gonna thank the citizens and thank Sue for coming out. Me and Sue, we speak right regular, and hopefully we can get something done. I know that Brad and Lisa and everybody at VDOT's been more than receptive to a lot of roads in Pine Creek District, and I'm thankful for that. And hopefully the board will help get something taken care of. I want to thank all the board members. You know, as we've seen tonight, everybody's passionate about what they believe and they feel, and that's what I would want as a representative, you know, for anybody in my district. And you know, it's like on them deals, Robbie. I will say, you know, I understand where you're coming from, and I've not seen the whole deal, and it's hard for me to vote on something that I haven't seen what's taking place. So, and Joe, you said you was out of line a time or two. I appreciate your passion and for the citizens, and I enjoy serving with you. And thank the employees. Thank Mr. Watson for all he does, and Mr. Durbin. And I guess it's going to be a lot of late nights for a budget now, but we'll work hard on it and hopefully get something worked out. So that's all. Thank you.
Well, we covered a lot of territory tonight, and we had a lot of comments that were very useful, and so we've heard some citizens that have problems, which we hope we can solve in one way or another. But I appreciate everybody taking their time to be here and voice your concerns and just be in the governmental body to see what goes on and help us keep going along the road straight and narrow. And obviously, for some of the votes, we didn't always agree with each other, but we were still smiling at each other, and nobody's throwing a baseball bat at anybody, so that's good. But that's the way government should be. Compromise and listen to all the different comments and vote your conscience, which I think is what we did tonight. And I'd like to thank all the staff, and we will see you all next month. We do have a meeting next Monday at 5:30, talking about the budget, and so I'm asking for a vote to recess until that time rather than an adjournment tonight.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of recessing until next Monday at 5:30, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Have a good evening.